fill in the blank. You're not getting any younger, so stop. Stop pretending, stop manifesting, stop writing down to-do lists, and go. Go fast, go now, go until you cannot go anymore because you need to pause. And then, when you think that it's time to give up, I beg you, keep going. Hey you, yes you. Welcome to the You're Not Getting Any Younger podcast. A podcast for people who want to disrupt their lives for a good reason, to make it count. I'm your host, Jen Glantz, and every week I'll drop a new episode with stories from real people just like you, who woke up one morning and decided to make big changes, starting with small things. We'll cover topics like entrepreneurship, love, failure, and self-care. Hey, you're not getting any younger, so let's make this an adventure. Ready? Hey everyone, it's me, Jen Glantz. Guess what? We're somehow on episode 50 of the You're Not Getting Any Younger podcast. I can't believe it. I would say that I never thought I would hit the 50 mark, but the truth is when I started the show in April of last year, we are almost at the 1 year mark, I thought to myself, you know what? This is not going to be just a project that I start and I give up on. This is going to be something that I completely commit to, even if that means filming episodes underneath my bed, in my pajamas, trying to block out the noises from the heaters, recording these episodes right before I have to go to sleep because tomorrow I'm getting on a 5 a.m. flight. Yes, that is the truth. But no matter what, I decided to start the show so that I could give something out there to the world completely for free that would not only make you view life differently, but also give you a kick in the butt to take control over your next steps, what you have to do, because hey, my friends, we're not getting any younger. I promised a solo episode for episode 50 because I have had the pleasure of talking to so many incredible people up until this moment. I feel like it's time for me to expose a little bit about who I am and all of these crazy facts that I have about myself to you, my loyal and incredible listeners. To do that, I'm answering 10 questions sent in from you, sent in on the You're Not Getting Any Younger secret Facebook group, emailed to me at jenglantz.com that you specifically asked me to answer. I'm going to pour my heart and soul into telling you the truth, and I hope that it inspires you to move forward, to inch closer to something that you want to wrap your arms around in this exact moment that you're listening to the show. So let's jump right in. Question number 1 comes from Ashley N. She says, what is something you're the most proud of? The truth is, when I was thinking of my answer to this question, I was thinking about not only one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, but something that was so intense that it's put such a couple of years apart from me ever trying to do it again. And that was publishing my second book. So the first book I published was All My Friends Are Engaged, and I published that in 2013. It was a collection of articles that I wrote for the site Thought Catalog. They reached out and well, actually, no, that's a lie. I reached out to them multiple times after I was writing for them for quite some time and said, hey, I know you guys publish books and I would like to publish a book with you. And they wrote back to me and said, great, what book can you write in less than 30 days? And I thought, okay, I could write one on dating because at the time all my friends were getting engaged. So I put together a collection of essays I had written for Thought Catalog. I wrote a couple new ones and they put out this really cool ebook for me. And that was my first book out there. But my second book, and in between the first and the second book, I had many failed attempts at writing books. I had book proposals that died many times at the hands of publishers, but I also had just books that I never actually exposed to the world and tried to get published. So book number 2 happened after Bridesmaid for Hire happened, and people started asking me for my craziest Bridesmaid for Hire stories. So I decided to write them down and put them in a book, and that was when I sold the book proposal to Simon & Schuster, which was a crazy process. The process of book publishing is one that people dream of. I myself dreamed of getting a book published traditionally for my entire life. Since I was like 6 years old, I wanted a book published, put in Barnes & Noble with my name on it. That was the coolest thing in the world. But traditional book publishing comes with a lot of interesting things that happen along the way. So when we sold the book to Simon & Schuster, I was given about 3 months to write it, and what that really meant was that for one of those months, I just sat there thinking of every excuse not to write it. I had such imposter syndrome. I remember talking to my business mentor, best friend Ray, and said to him, I am not qualified to write this book. And he's like, why do you think that? You've been writing since you were 6. And I was like, you're right. I have been writing since I was 6. I love writing. I think I'm good at it, but I am not qualified to make my dreams come true. Like, this is not real. How am I supposed to live out the biggest dream I ever had in just a couple months? I'm not ready. I'm not right for it. He gave me the best piece of advice, which was write out of order. So I spent the next 2 months of my 3-month stint actually writing the book, and that was hard. I really think it's probably like running a marathon. I've never run a marathon before, but I imagine that it's just really the same kind of process of just being super strenuous. I would write every day from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. in my room. By the end of the 2 months, I just remember screaming from my room, like, I need this to be done with and over. It's a painful process when you write nonfiction because you're writing the truth, you're writing about your life. So that was really hard, was writing the whole thing in 2 months. Looking back, I don't remember it. I read the book now and don't actually remember writing any of these words. I physically think it was so painful that I just blacked out. But looking at that book, seeing it in Barnes & Noble, celebrating it was the biggest accomplishment of my life, especially because I had been rejected so many times by publishers. Even for this exact book proposal, I was rejected by 30-something publishers before Simon & Schuster told me they loved it. And I think that is something that was such a really tough process, that getting back into the swing of things and writing a third book has been something I've been delaying and talking myself out of. And I hope in 2019 that changes. Question 2 is from Rochelle. She asks, why do you like pizza so much? I don't have a great answer for that, except that I've been a vegetarian since I was 6 years old. A lot of people might not know that, but I haven't had meat since I was a little kid. And I became a vegetarian because at that age, I suddenly realized that my only friends in the world, because I was shy and bullied and didn't have any real friends, were animals, and I didn't want to eat the animals. So I know that sounds crazy at 6 years old to make such a huge discovery and a huge life commitment, but I haven't had meat since I was 6, and I'm like the pickiest eater in the world because salads never fill me up. I always need salads and a carb, so that's why I love pizza, because it's just something that's filling, it's delicious. When I moved to New York City about 7 years ago, I had no money, and pizza back then, you can get a slice of pizza. I'm like aging myself here. I'm like, pizza back in the day was only 75 cents. And then if you got there was a deal, if you got 2 slices and a soda, it was like $2. So I remember multiple times after work, I'd be miserable working like a terrible job in PR. I would go get 2 slices and a soda, and I would sit there, and that was like my meditation when I first moved to New York City. It really was a ritual that marked a lot of crazy moments in my life, moments of happiness and joy, moments of loneliness, moments of doubt. I remember the first time I was on the Today Show. I secretly called out of work and said that I had a doctor's appointment. I went on the Today Show. I went to work. I told nobody that I was on it. After work ended, all I wanted to do was celebrate, but nobody in my life was there to celebrate with me. I felt like just all my friends were busy, and I felt so alone. I remember just sitting there after potentially one of the biggest days of my life at a pizza shop, eating pizza, drinking a soda by myself, crying because this incredible thing happened, and just I felt like anybody I wanted to care didn't care. So there I was with my pizza celebrating, and it sounds sort of sad, but it was just a really beautiful moment. And I think pizza's just been one of those underlying motives in my life that just keeps showing up, and it's comforting to me, almost as if maybe yoga was comforting to somebody else, or ice cream at the end of the day was comforting. Pizza is just sort of my comfort food. I know it's something I enjoy, and because I'm such a picky eater, I know that I can get it almost anywhere. Question 3 comes from Samantha. She wants to know, are you still a bridesmaid for hire? Samantha, you better believe it, I still am. We're going on 4+ years of me working as a bridesmaid for hire. In 2014, I started the viral company Bridesmaid for Hire after a lot of my friends got engaged and asked me to be a bridesmaid. There was this one night where 2 friends, the kinds of people you don't speak to in so long, 2 of those kinds of friends called me up, asked me to be a bridesmaid. I remember coming home to my roommate being like, Carrie, what is going on? People are asking me to be a bridesmaid that I hardly know. And Carrie was like, yeah, Jen, that's because you've become a professional. And I remember Carrie went home to Long Island that weekend and I was home alone. It was a Friday night and I thought to myself, you know what? I'm going to mess things up around here. And I went on Craigslist. I posted an ad on Craigslist offering my services as a bridesmaid for hire to the world. I posted the ad, shut my computer, didn't check my email till Monday, where I found that the ad had hundreds of responses. Not only that, but the media caught on and it went viral. And before I knew it, I found my first client, Ashley, from Maple Grove, Minnesota. I love you so much, Ashley. And I got on a plane. I flew there. I was her bridesmaid for hire. And after that moment, I realized we have a business here. And this is a business that people will call me crazy for. 4.5 years later, they still do. But this is a business that helps women on one of the hardest days of their life. And I rolled with it. I have worked hundreds of weddings. I have had 30,000 people apply to work for me, and I've hired some. I've also fired some. I've seen it all. People ask me for my craziest wedding stories. That's why I wrote a book called When You Least Expect It, because I have so many crazy wedding stories, and that's not even what the book is about. But I also have some really beautiful moments where in those madness of crazy wedding moments, I found beauty in the people and the situations and the stories and the things that they taught me about love and life. And those are the stories that I love to tell the most. Question number 4 is from Maria. She says, why did you start You're Not Getting Any Younger? So in the past couple of years, I've had some pretty incredible things happen to me. Not the best kinds of things, the kinds of things where, you know how people always say, like, there's those moments that happen, those couple of seconds where your entire life changes. I've had a couple of those moments happen in the last couple of years, and I haven't been completely transparent about them because I'm still working through them. So I'm not public about them, but I am pretty public that I've been going through some stuff. And about 2 years into some of this stuff, I had a moment during Thanksgiving where I just felt so down. I was so down. I was in a really dark place. And I remember laying in bed for, like, no joke, 6 hours, scrolling endlessly on my phone, just getting extra sad that everyone seemed like they had this perfect life. And I just felt like I was a disaster. And I was just, really upset and comparing and contrasting. And I remember I got in the shower and I thought to myself, enough, Jen, you're not getting any younger and you got to do something about this. You inspire so many people through so many things. And that's where I initially just started a Facebook group. I opened the Facebook group. I started inviting people. People joined. We talked about cool topics. And then right before my 30th birthday last April, I made a promise to myself to start this podcast and to keep it going for as long as I can as a free resource to people who are in a similar position or need to pick me up or just need something that will let them know, hey, we can't really mess around with life. We can't waste it. We have to really squeeze the most that we can out of it and figure out how to get over our fears. So that is why I started it. Question 5 comes from Marissa. Hey, Jen, where do you live? Marissa, that's a good question. So 1.5 years ago, my boyfriend and I, before we were going to move in together, we both decided that we were going to mess up our lives a little bit. We sold 90% of what we owned, and rather than living in an apartment together, we thought, okay, let's go live in a new city every single month. We both work from home, so we figured why settle down? And we did that. We went to Portland, Austin, Denver, Chicago, LA, different parts of Manhattan, Florida, all over the place. And after a while, in 1.5 years, we were falling madly in love with LA and New York. So now we sort of go in between. We don't have a permanent mailing address, so you can't exactly mail me anything. And we don't have belongings. We just live out of clothes stuffed into suitcases. And every couple of months, we find a new place to live. And it's been a really cool, exciting adventure. The negatives of it is that I no longer have style. I wear the same thing almost every single day, whatever fits into my suitcase. I also really miss having my own bed. I have become accustomed to sleeping on rock hard mattresses or beds that are just disgusting and things like that. But the cool benefits are that it's really changed me as a person. It's opened my eyes to things that I never knew I could become or care about. I was like semi-high maintenance before this, where I liked clean. I'm not high maintenance at all, but I like clean living environments. And when this experiment started, I was living in places with rats, with bugs, with stains, with you don't even want to know. And I sort of adapted to it. Like now I walk into a new place that we're living and I'm like, cool, it has hot water and it has windows, like awesome, So you really start to open your eyes to the little things. And that's also with where you're living too. When you live in the same place forever, you walk the same blocks, you eat the same places, and you make the same friends. And this little travel experiment has gotten me the opportunity to build lifelong friendships with people all over the country and go to new restaurants that I never would have known about and walk different paths every day. And it's made me slow down a lot, which is what I really needed at this time in my life. Next up, we have a question from Sharon. Sharon says, you have this crazy and successful business, Bridesmaid for Hire. Thanks, Sharon. Did you have any wacky business ideas that were not successful, didn't launch off the ground? Yes, of course. I'm like a walking, talking Shark Tank. If we ever hang out in person, I have a million business ideas that I want to run by you. And most of them are crap. Maybe some of them are good. I don't know. But I think that's the thing with ideas is we should become idea generating machines. Every day I challenge you to write down a list of 5, 10 business ideas. It doesn't mean you have to pursue them, but start to think about them. And I think what happened with Bridesmaid for Hire is I had thought about it for a month in my head, and then I started getting all of these signals that it was the right thing to do. I felt it in my gut, and that's why I went ahead with it. And I think the thing about starting is we have to feel like it's right. And if you're struggling with that moment, then maybe it's not the right idea. Next question is from Oswald. Are there any moments in your life that you wish you could do over? Oh my goodness, too many. I think a lot of what I wish I could do over is both something about myself that I love and I hate. I'm an Aries, I'm born April Fool's Day, and I am the most stubborn person you will ever meet. And I think that works really well because that makes me determined. It makes me a really hard worker. If I want something, I run a million miles an hour at it. But on the flip side, I'm stubborn in the sense that it's taken me far too long to apologize to people that I've done wrong to. It's taken me far too long to realize that I might have been wrong in arguments with people. And I think that in general, it's been a curse because it's taken me long to realize the help that I need during tough times because I can be so stubborn and I used to think like I could handle it all, which isn't true. And I think sometimes our biggest strengths are also our biggest weaknesses if we don't know how to manage them. So there's too many times in my life that I wish I can do over, but I think a lot of it is just with wasting time being upset with people or mad at people and not being able to communicate my feelings toward them. I'm much better, and I had an ex-boyfriend say this to me, and while I hate it so much, I also think it's true. I'm a lot better at writing than I am speaking sometimes my feelings. And I wish that instead of engaging in useless fights with people that I wrote down my feelings, I processed it, and I got over things faster. Question number 8 comes from Riley. What is your favorite quote? It's simple. Never, ever, ever, ever give up. I think the only thing that separates anybody from someone who's successful is that the successful person didn't give up. And it happens with podcasts all the time. People start podcasts and they quit after episode 5. And the people who are number 1 on iTunes usually went from 50 to 500 with their episode numbers. And I think that that's a lot of what we don't understand in today's day and age is that Instant success is not real success. It fades. People are always shocked that I'm still doing this bridesmaid for hire thing, but it's not a thing. It's a business. It's my life. It's something that I've given up a lot to do. I gave up a lot of personal relationships. I gave up a lot of free time in my 20s, time when people were partying. I was at my computer working, and I think that that's what people don't realize, is that you can't give up, but also that you do give up a lot when you're chasing after something. Question number 9 comes from Alyssa. What breaks your heart, Jen? I guess this one is something that's currently breaking my heart. It's the reason why I've deleted Instagram off my phone. I only go on for a couple of minutes a day on Monday, and that's it. It's the reason why I've tried to limit my social media time. Is it just breaks my heart that people feel the need to have to be perfect all of the time. We're not. And this is something that I've really, really tried hard to do, is just be really honest and vulnerable and real with my audience, because I'm not perfect. I don't live a glamorous life. I think that even if you think for a second you would trade places with me, if you knew the truth, you wouldn't. And I wouldn't trade places with you, because we all have shit going on in our lives, right? And it's relative. And the thing is, we should be honest about that to the degree that we feel comfortable. So I'm not comfortable exposing everything happening in my life to you, but I am comfortable letting you know that I'm sad sometimes and I'm going through stuff and I'm trying really hard to do everything I have to do and be happy. And I think when we go on social media, we just see triple filtered pictures of people and captions that don't even express what happened in that moment. And I struggle with that. It breaks my heart that we all feel like we have to hide. And I just think that when we do hide, when we do pretend, we get nothing good from it. We only try to just attract ego-driven things like likes and comments, and that's not what life is about. And it breaks my heart that that's how we're living. And yeah. Final question is question number 10. This one comes from Pam. Jen, what promise do you keep to yourself? The biggest promise I'm keeping to myself right now is to write a book. And that's a really scary thing to admit to you, because there's no guarantee with this book. People might not like it, but I'm keeping that promise to myself, where I have literally taken time on my calendar and blocked it off, where I'm allowed to do nothing but just write this freaking book. And whether or not this book gets published, maybe it'll end up in the nightstand, some theoretical nightstand that authors hide manuscripts in that people never see. I'm proud of myself for carving out the time to do something that I'm supposed to do in a time in my life where I could so easily just throw my hands up in the air and do nothing. So the promise I'm keeping to myself is to do what I love, which is write. Hey, thank you so much for listening to this solo episode number 50, my friends. We are not getting any younger. I appreciate you so much. Just as a reminder, come hang out with us in the Secret You're Not Getting Any Younger Facebook group. We have tons of amazing things happening there. As always, if you like the show, and I really hope that you like it, please leave us a quick review on iTunes. It'll take you 20 seconds and it'll mean 20 times a million to us here at the You're Not Getting Any Younger show. I'm here for you always, excited to bring you another batch of 50 episodes coming up. Thank you so much. Hey you, thank you for listening to the You're Not Getting Any Younger podcast. There are hundreds of thousands of pods out there, so thank you for listening to this one. You can find the show notes for this week's episode up on our website, anyyounger.com. Subscribe, rate, and review the You're Not Getting Any Younger podcast on iTunes so that other ears around the world can listen too. Oh, and join our secret You're Not Getting Any Younger Facebook group, where over 1,000 people are talking about how to disrupt their lives, for a good reason, to make it count. Until next week, all my love, Jen Glantz.